evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Board of Aldermen meeting for August 13th to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance
to
to
the flag
of the
of the
United
United States of America,
and
to the republic
to the republic
for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
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 indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with liberty
liberty and justice
and
for
justice
all.
for all.
for all.
Can you all please remain standing for a quick moment of silence for recently departed Canine Kane, who was honored yesterday from the Ansonia Police Department. Thank you. All right, Trish, roll call.
Alderman King,
Here.
Alderman Farrar,
Here.
Alderman Adamowski,
Here.
Alderwoman Tar,
Here,
Alderman Cassetti,
Here.
Alderman Janetti,
He's here somewhere.
is he? Alderman Knott,
Come on.
Alderman Hardy, Alderman Yellman, Alderman Rivers,
He's here at the bottom.
I see, okay. Alderman Mamone,
Here.
President Stewart,
Here.
Alderman Levinsky,
Here.
Alderman Durante,
Here.
10 present.
All right, declare quorum. I'd like to add one item, seeking a motion to add late communication from the Chief Williams to the agenda.
Motion to accept the late ad, Josh.
Trish, I'm here.
I got you.
Motion from Amon to add the item. Second by who? Where was that?
Second by Durante.
Oh, second by Durante. All in favor?
Hi.
aye,
All right, so we'll pick that up later after the other communication. Actually, there is no other communication, so we'll pick that up.
As our communication.
Yeah.
Josh, I'm here.
Who dat?
Joe
Uh,
Janetti.
Joe Janetti.
Are you iPhone 26, Joe?
Yes.
Okay, iPhone 26 and 6 John Marini 6281 is Dan King.
Okay.
So we have 11.
Josh,
Yes.
can we remove number 5 from the agenda? That's the same as number 6.
All right.
Just
So we're gonna remove number 5 under new business. Perfect.
Thank you.
Yep.
Could we, John, mute or?
Yeah, there's a all right. So for minutes for approval, we have actually 4 of them, but I'd like to clump them into 2 groups. The one from July 9th, and then there were 3 meetings in succession on the July 24th. How about July 9th, our regular meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mamone, second by Tar, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, motion carries. And then July 24th, we had the public hearing for the ordinances, the ordinance committee meeting, and the special meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Levinsky,
Second.
second by Rivers, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining?
I'll abstain, Josh. It's Tony.
1 abstention, Mamone.
I missed most of that. Apologies.
All right. So accept those. Let's see, consideration, public session. Same rules as always. We welcome the public to address the Board of Aldermen. Anyone from the public who wishes to speak tonight?
Mhm.
Hi, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Ellen Tresselt. I live at 153 Main Street, right here in Ansonia. I'm a member of All In for Ansonia Derby, and we just decided that it would probably be a good idea to introduce ourselves to you and for us to be present at Alder's meetings. And I do have a question. I don't know if it's on the agenda, but a question that we have concerns the funding for Gaddison Park. So I'm just asking where the status of that, but I don't want to, you know, that's not on your agenda then. It's just a question that we have.
Okay.
There's a
Thank you.
resolution on that, so.
Resolution 2, later in the agenda, we'll be discussing that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Anyone else from the public who wishes to speak tonight? Please make yourself known some way.
Well, I'm Alicia. I'm in All In and I work with Salvation Army. I'm the caseworker there. Last name is Free Love, sorry.
What's your last name?
Free Love.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Anyone from the public? Joe Cassetti, those glasses are sweet. Just got a glimpse of those scanning around.
Mhm.
Last call, public session. Anyone from the public who wishes to address the board? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public session and move on to public official session, starting with Mayor Cassetti.
Good evening, President Short, members of the Board of Aldermen, residents of the great city of Ansonia. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sir. Okay. I want to thank you for the moment of silence for Kane, our officer, canine officer. I want to give a shout out to Chief Williams and Lieutenant Lynch and the handler, Paul Smith, and all those who helped put together a beautiful ceremony at Nolan Field yesterday. We have lost a valuable member of our team. Rest in peace, Kane, and thank you for your service. Lots of resolutions, and that means that my staff has been busy applying and securing millions of funding. Congratulations for all the hard work, and we are moving our projects forward. Of course, you will hear more about the grants and the projects later from John and Sheila. 2 quick improvements in the downtown. 501 East Main Street has brand new windows. The owners of 497 and 501 East Main Street will have a new green space in between the buildings. The courtyard will come complete with tables, umbrellas, and amenities. Along with the new train station platform slated for 2025, we will also be improving our pathway to West Main, and we will be including new curbing, ADA accessibility, more green space, and brick pavers near the train station, the surrounding areas. Plans are being sent to DOT for review, and hopefully we can move this project forward. More demolition will occur at SHW. Concurrently, we are beginning the planning and survey of the Opera House, where we'll create a new items to finalize the costs needed for the renovation of the historic building. We are getting our own Italian pavilion, AKA Emma's Pavilion, will be opening up on East Main Street, and we have a new sewing room and tailor shop, both here in Ansonia in downtown. A lot of activities are going on. I'm reminding you of the Rock the Valley is next Saturday, August 24th, from 12 to 10. I hope to see you all there for a fun-filled day. The last concert for the summer is tomorrow at Veterans Park, featuring New Groove. Bring your lawn chair and come enjoy the music. Look out for our next city newsletter, which shall arrive, I hope, at your home early next week. The boxing registration is August 31st from 10 to 1 p.m. at Ansonia Armory. I'd like to wish the Ansonia students, class of 2025, a year filled with new goals, limitless achievements, and memories you'll hold with you forever. A new year signifies new growth, opportunities, and a path to our future. Many thanks to our great superintendent, Dr. Joe DeBacco, and his wisdom and leadership, and to all the teachers, administration, and staff. God gave you patience. Same message to the parents. Now that's cap. That's it for now. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Mayor. Next up from the public officials, Corporation Counsel John Marini, who's in front of City Hall appears, or fake City Hall.
No, it's City Hall. I don't know why you'd question it.
All right.
The weather is amazing. There's not really a breeze. My hair really has nothing to worry about. But members of the board, Mr. President, the mayor laid out pretty good roadmap of what's going on. So I'll briefly touch on a couple things or several things. Number one, I want to single out the Opera House. We're going from a feasibility study, it's already been accomplished, to now a planning survey. And what that's all about now is we have a concept, we're going to put dollar signs to those concepts and understand for the very first time what this project cost will be. A couple notes along the way. Number one, there are renderings ready for this board's review and the public's review. And those renderings show some options, some possibilities for the space. They're very exciting, and we're looking to really have a dedicated meeting for the public to take a look at this in the very near future, probably beginning of fall, so we can get a lot of eyes on it. I know All In, representatives from All In, Ansonia and Derby are in the audience tonight. This is definitely something that group would want to check out and would love their input on as well. Number two, we really want to point out that we do need an ordinance committee meeting as we head back to the fall. The primary thing at this point is that housing code. And again, any resident interested in what we're doing to ensure the highest and best properties, protections for residents and tenants in the city would be very interested in having input in this housing code and how it works to offer further protections for the good of our residents, especially residents and tenants. I also want to note a point of interest for Rock the Valley. Obviously, all that's going on. We've had some publicity out there, but I want to let everybody know, and also everybody here, all the members of our meeting here tonight, that we are manning a city booth to raise funds for the animal shelter. And we are going to be selling for the first time in quite a while, directly from the tap, Castle Beverages, thanks to a generous donation from Dave Pantalone and Castle Beverages itself. And so we will have a tap available. Unfortunately, the glass bottles are no longer available, but if you have empties, and many people do, the small ones, the large ones, we will have an option to refill those at the concert. And again, definitely, want volunteers from this board, as it's going to go to a good cause. I think we'll also be selling event posters for the good of the city as well. So kind of three random things to point out, but we have a lot of substance tonight and a lot of good conversation, I'm sure, on these resolutions, which are all very important. So, other than that, I'll take any questions. And just a reminder, we do own Copper and Brass now. That's a constant update, but we want to let everyone know that we are past the end of the road. City is the owner of Ansonia Copper and Brass, thanks to your hard work. And we are now moving rapidly ahead on different elements of of more demolition, more remediation. You're going to be hearing a lot of that strategy and planning very, very soon. Also, I want to say on the radar, middle school, right? Plans for a new middle school. And I want to put a signal out there that we're going to likely need a building committee meeting, probably maybe even taking a look at buckling down the building committee, resolidifying the building committee, because things are going to become very concrete very fast on that front as well, making progress there. And finally, just off the top of my head, chiming in, I think our Parks Advisory Committee is making some real headway. Just several weeks ago, they had a very good presentation from our engineer on different options for the fields. They're not quite ready to pass on anything to this board recommendations yet, but it's looking very good in terms of using those dollars, making those good dollars go as far as possible for the good of all city fields. Some very interesting scenarios. They're going to get into the meat of that very soon. So look for a report back. And that all goes with our time frame of really bonding early next year. Maybe as soon as January, February. Kurt is sort of putting together the best timing on that. But we're definitely in the right place in terms of figuring out what we need, how to best go about this. That way, when we borrow, we know what we're doing. There's a plan.
Any questions from the aldermen for Corporation Counsel tonight? All right, you get off easy for now. And we'll move on to economic development. Sheila O'Malley.
Yeah, thank you, President Stewart. I am in City Hall. No wind in here either. Hair's perfectly still. Thank you, members of the Board of Aldermen. Want to update you on some projects. Let's dovetail off of something the mayor mentioned, which was the train station area enhancements and EV charging project that we are working with Metro North in coordination with their platform replacement for the city of Ansonia. We're going to be doing improvements around that platform and train station area to include concrete sidewalks, stamped concrete, granite curbing, ADA curbing, compliant sidewalk ramps, street lighting, benches, pedestrian amenities. So it will complement what Metro North is planning for our platform improvements and really create some green space and a pathway down to the train station. So looking forward to that. Sent those plans to DOT just today. Reviewed those plans with the engineers today. And that's an exciting project. Let's see, we've got State Street. So State Street is moving along and we are targeting submitting the semi-final plans and final plans by the end of this month. And we're modifying the signal plan to include emergency preemption for the fire department. And we may need a meeting with the fire department to confirm the layout as soon as possible. So that those get included with DOT's review. On Franklin Street, the installation of a new water line and service connections are going in. So the mayor has written and called DOT asking for discretionary money to finish the entire road. However, as I've said many times, if they do not plan on doing that, and we haven't heard definitively yet, but if they do not plan on finishing Franklin, we plan on finishing Franklin. So we're putting together an application for the for funding for the curb to curb road reconstruction at roads, you know, just certainly, even though it's a state road, mayor would like to go after and get funding for that, for the rehabilitation of that road. If DOT is not going to, you know, finish it, I can't imagine it's all, you know, a patchwork quilt, which is really unattractive and unsafe. So those are those two road projects. SHW, we've gotten the green light to go ahead from the state with our, well, we will have the green light once the resolution is passed tonight, but those are US RAP funds. They're going to be used to create site pad preparation and to construct an access road into SHW, which is that 5-acre piece off of Main Street and North Main Street that we've talked a lot about. And we're prepping the site as well for fuel cell occupation. So that's going ahead. Ansonia Copper and Brass, our next step is the extrusion mill. Actually, let me back up. SHW, we are going to begin the remainder of building 11, the demolition of building 11 and demolition of building 12, so that the site will be cleaned completely, flattened. Ansonia Copper and Brass, we are moving on to the extrusion mill, as we have had an interested party that wanted to go into what they thought was building 12, but that doesn't seem feasible right now. It's it's not going to work for their purposes, and it also isn't going to be sound enough to rehabilitate. So we've gotten permission to move forward with the demolition of 12 and begin the process of remediating the extrusion mill. Removal, testing and removal of all the debris, and there's couple of ponds in there, sludge ponds. So we'll be going forward with that. You have on your, I think you may have 3 resolutions, but one of the resolutions is for Gaddison Park. That is to complete the agreement. Those are federal dollars, and one of the requirements by the state, which is a pass-through, their requirements at OPM require that we approve the resolution to accept the funds for Gaddison Park. And I can talk a little bit about some of the things we've been talking to people with and talking to our superintendent and our aldermen regarding Gaddison Park. There'll be tree removal. There'll be demolition of the existing playground, the swing, the apparatus, and the grounds, installation of new playground equipment on a rubberized surface, fencing, lighting, hopefully picnic tables, benches, brick and walkway repair, security cameras, public art space. And I hope I've covered everything, although it's, we're trying to work within a limited budget, but we will see what we can come up with that will satisfy everyone and especially enhance the neighborhood. I think that's it, because I know Alderman Rivers will have some questions. So I will end it there. I have a bunch of other projects going on, but
We'll come back to you later in the agenda as well. Any questions for economic development tonight from the Alderman?
Of course.
Yeah, here, hit it. Hit it, Rivers.
teed it up for you.
Sheila, will the paving of the street be in conjunction with the sidewalks?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. Good question.
that's it. You got off easy. I'm in my truck and there's no wind
Wow.
blowing either.
Oh, wow. All right.
Josh, I have 2 questions for Sheila.
Go ahead, Steve.
So Sheila, first of all, the State Street project,
Yep.
I'm sure you're aware, the last 6 weeks or so, State Street and several of the adjoining streets have been torn up relative to replacement of the gas lines and I think water lines, right? Because
That's correct.
there's both blue striping and orange striping going on.
Yep, that's gas and water.
Obviously, that has left the street in terrible condition. But my question is that the extent that's being finished up now? But is that the extent of the work that has to be done before the State Street project is initiated?
Yes, sir. Yes, that's a good question. That is the external extent, right? On our end, we have to get approvals in place before we start moving.
Okay, all right, thank you. And the second question concerns Gaddison Park, which you just mentioned. As you know, we had one meeting of first and second ward aldermen, supplemented by other aldermen, regarding the design of this. And we were supposed to have a walkthrough. I know it was scheduled at the last minute. I was not able to attend. But what I'm wondering is when can we have another meeting of that committee in order to advise and finalize plans for the park?
Yep, and we can certainly talk to the engineer who's been out there as well. Can have a second walkthrough and look at the scope or proposed scope.
So will you take responsibility for scheduling that?
I will.
Okay, and you'll give us a little notice, right?
You got it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
And
Alderman.
by little, you mean like a half a day.
Like more than 2 hours, yes.
Got it. I actually thought we gave advance notice, but maybe not. Sorry about that, but yes, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for economic development at this time? All right, thank you. And again, we'll return to you later for some of those agenda items.
Good, thank you.
Moving on, we'll get a finance update from Budget Director Kurt Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. Just a couple of things quick. Just want to touch on fiscal 24. Excuse me. Wrapping up is going well. Expenses came in under budget, which is certainly very good news. As you know, we had been tracking several things throughout fiscal 24 that we had some concerns about running over budget, things like utilities, garbage, police department overtime, fire department vehicle repairs, things like that. But because of a great team effort by all of the department heads, as well as the finance staff, we were able to close up all of those holes, and again, came in under budget on expenses. So that's a really great thing. With regards to revenues, we're waiting on the 60-day accruals. So we should have that information, obviously, the end of this month. So for your September meeting, I should have a much better idea as to how we finished up fiscal 24. Everything is looking quite positive, though, which is, again, great news. We've started putting information together for the audit. So that will progress over the next several months. We have key staff back in place. Board of Education is a lot stronger than they were last year. Unfortunately, last year they had to deal with some unfortunate absences and things like that, but their team is fully up and running and strong. So we expect to have the audit and everything done and ready to go by the end of the year. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking later about the capital plan, and then also three overall projects that we're going to do. One is a short-term borrowing, which will coincide with the capital. The second is another large-scale energy efficiency project with Johnson Controls, building off the success that we've had the first time. That's with the fuel cell. So Aaron Alibrio from Johnson Controls is here. We'll just kind of talk quickly about that. I want to give you all some updates. We're probably going to need to schedule a special meeting in the next 2 weeks. We had been working on all the finance pieces. Glenn Rybacki, who is our bond counsel from Pullman and Conley, who's also on tonight, got some last minute information from Bank of America, who does our financing, wants to make a few changes. So we need to sort a few things out and then put that back in front of the aldermen to have them vote. So we'll do that, as I said, in the next week or two. And then the last thing, as Sheila and John had mentioned, we are fast forward on getting downtown up and running, knocking down buildings, so we can bring in new businesses. The unfortunate thing is all the grants that we have been receiving, most of them are reimbursable, which means we have to put the cash out front and then we get reimbursed by the state or the federal government on their own time frame. As we know, we have grants that are in the tens of millions of dollars. The city is not in the financial position, nor really is any community in Connecticut in the financial position to be able to put out $15–20 million and sit back and wait months, even years to get reimbursed. So we're going to go through a process of taking down grant anticipation notes. What those are is they allow us to essentially get money up front, do the projects, submit for reimbursement, and then when the reimbursement comes in, it goes directly to paying off those notes. It is extremely structured. It is an extremely rigid process. Attorney Rybacki will talk about that. The money can only be used for the specific projects that the grant is lined up for. So this is not a way for the city just to borrow money and go and blow it and do all sorts of other crazy things, which I'm sure we'll hear tomorrow from people on social media. That's not what this is. This is giving us the opportunity to supercharge these grants to create long-term viable success for the city. So when we get into the upcoming agenda items, I'll go through all those. As I said, Aaron Alibrio from Johnson Controls is here with me. Glenn Rybacki, our bond counsel from Pullman and Conley, and then not here tonight, but the two other members of our finance team, John Healy from Mesro Capital and Barry Bernabe from Phoenix Advisors. They're able to attend tonight, but the four of us are all working on get everything up and running. So with that, Mr. President, I'll take questions.
All right, any questions for Kurt? Keeping in mind that he's gonna address the capital stuff later. Any questions from the Alderman?
Perfect, thank you.
All right, see you later. Next up, we'll go to Police Chief Wayne Williams. Welcome.
Good evening, President Stewart. First, I just want to take a minute. As President Stewart mentioned and the mayor mentioned, we lost Canine Officer Kane earlier last week due to a sudden illness. I want to thank Mayor Cassetti, all the city departments and the officials that helped with and also attended the memorial ceremony for Canine Kane on Monday at Nolan Field. A special thanks to the fire department for setting up the flag tribute that they did and for Public Works for getting the field set up for us. It was well attended by members of our department, law enforcement canines from around the state, as well as local officials. It was a great way to honor Canine Kane. He had served this community for 9 years. So I do appreciate that. It was also a good way to honor Officer Smith and his family and the amount of work and their loss. Give you a quick update on personnel. We have one officer in the academy. Unfortunately, another recruit officer that was in the academy withdrew from the academy for personnel reasons. We have one officer that is currently in field training. We have 8 open positions that we are still attempting to fill. We have a lieutenant's exam that is coming up at the end of September. In conjunction with the mayor's office, as part of our recruitment and retention ideas, programs, we instituted a signing bonus as part of that recruitment drive for any new officers that come in. So have them reach out to me and I will update them on what the program is. We'll be putting something out on our social media pages in the very near future. We are also looking at some recruitment and retention ideas. Other than that, I do have some concerns, as I mentioned at the police commission meeting, about the upcoming changes in MERS on July 1 of 2025 that is going to result in retirements across the state. Our department will be impacted by that MERS pension change at a time when we really don't want to lose any more personnel. The speeding traffic enforcement is ongoing. We are in the middle of the summer phase of the grant from the state, as well as the DUI grant. We worked on several large capital purchases with the finance department. Those are part of that communication letter that was brought up, that will be brought up later this evening. I apologize in advance for it being a late communication. I just wanted to make sure I had the most up-to-date figures. I'll make comments and answer any questions on that proposal once that letter comes up. The outside vendor, Extra Duty Solutions, has now been handling our private duty since July 1. They do all the billing and scheduling. Is working very well. They've been very prompt with the payments to the city since they've taken over. So that is actually a great program. It's working out well. As the mayor mentioned, we are also working on plans and scheduling for emergency services for Rock the Valley on August 24th. That's a manpower heavy event for us. We're working with the fire department, fire marshal's office, medical services, both Ansonia and Seymour. So planning meeting until last week. I think we're in good shape. So we should be good for the event. Lastly, I will also let you know the Ansonia Police Union is sponsoring its first ever car show on September 29th at Nolan Field. We are working with them currently on the logistics. They expect over 100 exotic cars, and I would encourage all of you to come up. I'll remind you again at the September meeting. Attendance to come to for spectators is free. And they'll be charging fees for cars to enter the car show, which is not parking, but any exotic cars that want to enter the actual car show, which is common with those type of shows. But any questions, I'm here to answer.
Any questions for the chief tonight from the Alderman?
Absolutely.
Hit it.
How you doing, Chief?
I'm doing very good, Alderman. How are you?
Good. Okay. As you know, I'm at Nolan Field almost every night, and we've been having problems with the dirt bikes and the 4x4s. And I think if you just had some, I mean, I know you can't do nothing because your hands are tied on this, but having a patrol, come through here, here and there. We're here from 6 until 8:30, Monday through Thursday.
All right, I will make it a point that we're up there for that, but it's not just those days. I can tell you that we've been having issues with them across the board.
Yes.
We've had some meetings about other ways that we can attack this problem. So I will keep that here at the police department as of right now, but I will speak to the evening shift supervisors and let them know what the issue is. Is it in the parking lot or is it up on the fields?
I've had to chase them actually out of the upper field, and they ran across the field on the bikes.
Okay.
Yeah. Practice field. They went like, straight across it.
Okay.
So, okay.
Right. Yeah,
All
thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, since we're looking at reminders, I always wanted to go back to a couple months ago. I came to the police commission meeting regarding people coming up Prindle specifically towards Emmett O'Brien, and you guys had put a patrol out last year at the end of the school year. I just wanted to say, like school will be starting soon again up there, so my guess is that that activity will perk up a little bit. So anything's appreciated on that front.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the schools, Ansonia schools start up on the 22nd. I see Mr. Superintendent Baco's on. Joe, do you know when Emmett starts?
I don't know, but I'll look it up for you. They usually start later. State schools, I'm gonna say, I believe they're gonna start the 29th, but I'll look it up for you right now.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you. So
Yes,
yeah,
it is the 29th.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
guys.
welcome, Chief. I got a quick question for the chief.
Go ahead.
Last week I was going down Division Street and a young man crossed Division Street on a mini bike. I don't think he was 8 years old. And he just cut in front of me and came out of a side street. Now, what happens if you hit somebody like that? I mean, are you liable?
Well, the last thing I'm going to get into right now is a liability debate about that. But I will tell you that people on the road, whether they're operating cars or bikes, et cetera, still have rules that they have to follow. And those rules are in place for a reason. I will tell you that we have been addressing, continue to address, and it doesn't seem to get better. The dirt bike, quad, pocket bike problem has been getting worse over the summer.
Yep.
Not just in this community. Superintendent DeBaca will tell you that we were having a discussion over the weekend. He was coming into town and there was a large mass of them on Route 34 in Orange being chased around by the police. And my big question was, are they coming to Ansonia or going away from Ansonia? Because it's the last thing that we need to deal with. But I will tell you that is a problem that is consistent. We are addressing it. We address it with some other communities. We have been talking with other communities about ways that out of the box that they're addressing it. Because I will tell you that they do not pull over for the police when the officers attempt to stop them, and the officers by policy and law are not allowed to chase them because they are motor vehicle violations. So we are working on some other ways to address this. But I will tell you that parents also need to start getting involved, because I'm noticing it, as you did, are younger and younger on these bikes. We did have a bad accident on Wakely Avenue last 2 weeks ago involving one of those bikes and the person operating recklessly.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's sad. I mean, God forbid you hit one of these people and it's their fault. I mean, legally, I don't think they're supposed to be on a road with them. But if you hit them, the next thing you know, you're getting sued because you hit them and they're breaking the law. It's sad. And I feel sorry for the police officers. They have no right. Nobody supports them. It's sad.
Well, I won't say that nobody supports us, because I believe in the silent majority, and I will say that this board has always been supportive.
No,
but I understand what you're saying.
Let me get this straight. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. Our board and the mayor and everybody supports them. I'm talking about different levels of government.
Being on the state level, Joe?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I know what he meant. I just want to make sure that we reinforce it, that's all.
No, we support you 100% and the officers. We think you guys are doing a great job.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, chief.
I actually have a question for Chief Williams.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
Alderman Durante, 7th Ward, Chief Williams, how you doing?
I'm doing very good.
A while back, probably 7 or 8 months ago, I had put in a request for a citizen that lives on Bartholomew. He sent in a couple complaints to put in a speed trap or even like just a speed limit sign. It's a cut through that a lot of people have been going very fast in the neighborhood. Still yet to see a speed trap or even so a just a speed limit sign.
There are no speed limit signs you're saying on Bartholomew?
Yeah, no, I don't know what the speed limit is. I would imagine it's 25 miles per hour.
Yeah, it'd be 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just following up with it, that's all.
Yeah, Alderman Durante, if there's a way tomorrow, could you call here to the police department, to the main number and speak with my assistant Dawn and just leave her your number and I will give you a call.
Okay. Okay, no problem.
Okay, no problem.
Yep. Thank you very much, Chief.
Anyone else for the chief?
This is not for the chief, but this is for the commissioners for the fire and police and arms on arms. Pop Warner is looking to what's the word? A home game. We want to thank all of the first responders. So if I could get together with the commissioners from them department and find out which game would be good for all of the departments to show up, because we want to show our appreciation for all of the first responders.
Well, from the police department, I can tell you, I think that's an excellent idea. I don't think we can ever think, and I'm not saying this selfishly, I don't think you can ever thank the first responders, especially the ones that volunteer in the community, enough. So whatever you need, we will make sure that we help out with.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Alderman Rivers. Anyone else? All right, and you're sticking around. We can come back to you for the
communication. Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, next up, Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Joseph DeBacco.
Good evening, President Stewart. Good evening, members of the Board of Aldermen. First of all, I'd like to let everyone know that I was very excited to see Corporation Counsel Marini today at freshman orientation at Ansonia High School. It was great to see both Attorney Marini and his wife there attending our freshman orientation. But I did want to give you some dates and some information. Today, we started our new teacher orientation. Just for those that know, we hired 12 staff members this year. My very first year as superintendent, we hired over 34 certified staff. This year, I only had to hire 12. That's a testament to our board and testament to our aldermen supporting our Board of Education with the funding and not having to hand out pink slips year after year. So we have a consistent staff. So I can't say thank you enough, because I did spend my whole first summer hiring. And so to only have to hire 12, I didn't have to spend my whole summer doing HR. So I thank you. I do want to share that this Friday, we'll have our 6th annual kindergarten canvas, where we go door to door for all our kindergarten students and hand out a book and welcome them to Ansonia Public Schools with a bright smile. I always tell people, now that I've come to your house, now it's time for the families to come to our house. That's how we do it in Ansonia. It's we're all about family. I do want to share, I asked Mayor Cassetti to attend convocation on August 19th. It's Monday. We're going to welcome our teachers and our staff back. We'll have 3 days of professional development. And then students will be coming Thursday, August 22nd. We're excited getting our buildings ready. And one building that I'm super excited to get ready is Mead Elementary School will be getting a brand new playscape. I have some consultants coming to test out that playscape. They're my 3 daughters. If my 3 daughters tell me that the playscape is worthy for other kids to play on it, I'll tell you this Saturday. So we're going to test it out this Saturday, but Mead Elementary School should have a brand new playscape. What a great addition to our community and great addition for our kids to have a beautiful new playscape. And we're going to be off to the races very, very soon. We should be giving you more and more information as the year goes on. But like I said, once school starts, you'll get more and more information about what we're doing and how the kids are doing. And hopefully we'll hear about all the wonderful things that our kids are doing on the field and in the classroom. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
All right, thanks, Dr. Joe. Before I open it up to the aldermen, I did want to remind you that at the end of last school year, you had promised that when we got back around to the fall, we would discuss
You
getting
got it.
kids to do the pledge in coming months. So maybe September or October, we can do a better job than we ever do.
I'm going to send the email to Christina Molina like I did last time, and with both principals. I think we're going to work it with 5th grade students, and we're going to alternate Prendergast Mead, and hopefully we'll have a student here during the year to start us off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions from the aldermen? All right. Well, good luck this year, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for coming tonight.
Absolutely.
So ends our public official session. We'll move on to reports, financial reports, Finance Committee.
Make a motion to pay all bills if deemed correct, Josh.
Motion to pay all bills by Mamone. Anybody take the lead?
Second.
Second by Cassetti. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, motion carries. Secondly, the vote recommendations included in the municipal report.
Motion to accept, Josh.
Motion by Mamone, second by Cassetti. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, motion carries. Let's see, item C under financial reports, the request for refunds, and I'll note that the revised amount came out after the original packet. The revised requested amount is $12,773.63 on the amended request for refunds.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Rivers, second by Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Our motion carries unanimously. Monthly reports. I always say it, but I don't ever want people to stop thinking we don't appreciate all the monthly reports that come in that are not voted on or discussed. So thank you to all those departments that did submit reports to us. I just like a blanket motion to accept those reports and place them on file.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Cassetti, second by Adamowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, motion carries. Put those on file. Thanks again. Under accents and claims, we had 4 claims. Claim number 07241058, 07241059, 07241060, and 08106124. What's your pleasure?
Motion to refer to Corporation Council.
Second.
Motion to refer to council by Mamone and a second by Levinsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, motion carries. Good luck with those. We have one communication. This is the late communication we added from Chief Williams. This has been, as noted in the letter, and Chief Williams is here to answer any questions as well, as is Kurt. And I know that Finance and PD and the Mayor's Office all worked on this collaboratively. Are there any questions regarding the content of the letter, any of the items?
We have the money, excuse me, through you, President Stewart. We have the money already allocated for these things, right?
So this, just so I'll jump in real quick. These funds will come from the finance department, what you're gonna be talking about a little later. These were all part of the referendum, but they were a very small part of the referendum. I think Mr. Miller, we've had multiple sit downs about this, but Mr. Miller will probably be able to explain it to you a little bit more, but no purchase would be entered into or made until the financing was set.
It's a simple letter then, Chief?
Yeah, and all the chief was asking for in his letter was permission to proceed with this, and you know, when the money's all lined up through finance to make the purchases.
Yeah, through you, Mr. President. So it's kind of a two-step process. You guys are giving authorization to go out and make the purchases themselves. And then we'll work on lining up the finance, bring the two together, and then the chief can make the order and we'll be all set. But that should be ready to go based on how everything goes tonight. Within the next week or so, he should be able to order everything.
Will this come back to us again?
There'll be no need to, no.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a
Okay,
motion.
I
to
make a
approve this?
motion.
Ask a question.
Oh, wait, motion to a second by, motion to approve by Rivers, second by Tar, and then we have a question by Amon.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Chief, the I guess the option to, or the decision to change from a 45 caliber to a 9mm, is that kind of standard, I guess, in the police force for what other departments are carrying?
Yeah, so what I will tell you without getting too deep in the weeds, because I got too deep in the weeds with my firearms instructors and I couldn't get out. The departments were, it was all about stopping power. Listen, what I hope is that these weapons are never used. That I tell people that all the time. I hope that we buy these and they are never used. But when it comes to ammunition, you're talking about stopping power. And the 45, the 9mm was a little less stopping power than the 45, but that is, you know, a decade ago. And the new type of ammunition that is coming out for 9mm is increasing the stopping power. It also is a smaller round, so it increases the quantity that the officers can carry. And the availability is also another issue. I will tell you that with 45 ammo, we've gotten better now, but with 45 ammo, we were having a difficult time getting it for training to the point where we were borrowing from other towns and then having to give it back to them. 45 ammo was on about a year to a year and a half back order. 9mm was about 3-month back order. So there's a lot of reasons why we're making the change. The handling of the weapon, especially officers with smaller hands. There's a lot of factors that went into this. This was not something we just came up with. I would tell you that this has been going on for at least a year. We had multiple weapons brought in. We had officers at the range on a regular basis trying them out. So the process has been going on for quite a while.
As long as one of them wasn't cost, which was the reason why we were, you know, downgrading, then, you know.
No, I will tell you, and I will tell you that when I talk to the departments, and we tell them that we carry the H&K, they're actually that's not a weapon that is often carried because it is a more higher end. But I will tell you that it is a benefit to staying with the same platform because the trade-in value for the weapons that we currently have is also high. So the purchase and the trade-ins and all that, we're getting a very, very good deal. We have to go all the way to Athens, Georgia to get it, but we are getting a very good deal on this.
Excellent. Yeah, it has my support then, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion on this? All right, we had a motion in a second, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion carries unanimously. Thanks, and thanks for the detail in your letter.
Thank
We'll move on to the next section. Okay, no resignations this month, and then resolutions, we have 3. These were mentioned by Sheila at the beginning, all through economic development. So please pipe in as appropriate. Number 1, City of Ansonia accepts grant funds from DEEP for the Ansonia Recreation Trails Project. Any comments on that, Sheila?
Just to say that these resolutions are required as part of the financial assistance agreement that you enter into with either the state or even the federal government requires that the city approves a resolution to enter into and accept money. So it's a formality.
Yes. Accepting the grant funds for the Ansonia Recreation Trails Project.
Motion.
Motion by Buddy, second by Adamowski. Buddy? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
For abstaining? All right, motion carries unanimously. Second resolution, City of Ansonia accepts grant funds from DEP for the rehabilitation of Gadsden Park. This was also mentioned.
I think that was a cut and paste error. The funds are from the federal government.
Yeah, okay.
And they are passed through to OPM and then down to the municipality. So they are federal funds, and the resolution is a requirement by the Office of Policy and Management at the state level.
Motion.
I apologize for
Not your fault.
that piece, but the resolution itself.
Yes.
Just the wording on the agenda there.
Yep. Sorry about that.
The motion from Rivers,
Second.
second by Cassetti. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries unanimously. The third one, City of Ansonia, 35 North Main, FAP 6.7 million Ansonia SHW US RAP proposal.
Yep, this is, I spoke a little briefly about this in my report, but this is the $6.7 million for 35 North Main Street. And again, part of the financial assistance proposal with the state.
Josh, can I ask a question on this?
Sure.
Sheila, can you describe the work that will be done with this money? Is this demolition or is this remediation?
It's pretty broad, and that's the way we wanted it to be. So it will include anything from remediation, demolition, site prep work, can also help with the access road and the site pads. So pretty broad, and allows us some flexibility to make sure we've cleared a path for our road and for our site pads.
But the particular building in the resolution is still standing, is it not?
Are you talking about building 11 or building 12?
Well, one of those, yes.
Yeah, so portion of building 11 is still standing, which is, again, you know, my demolition contractor said something really enlightening, which is to say those buildings all have numbers, but those are just numbers that someone assigned at some point in history, that they're all pretty much kind of attached and built one right next to the other, sharing walls, etc. So yes, building a portion of building 11, which is really building 12, those are both coming down.
Okay, so those are the buildings that are facing North Main Street currently that are pretty much shells.
Yeah, this will take it right. This will take it right down to the railroad tracks.
Okay.
I just prove it to myself and prove to everybody else that thinks I can't do it. I can do this.
Okay. Anyway.
Successful right there. Good job. Well, there's no way I was gonna do
Anything
that.
else, Steve? Alderman Adamowski?
Yeah, thank you. That answers my
One of the
question.
reasons that I'm here. Freedom. I don't have anybody.
You need a motion?
Yeah.
That's okay. Hey, iPhone 26.
Is that Joe? Hey, Joe.
Pipe down. Yeah, so, seeking a motion,
Rita wants them to create a job for her.
Motion.
Joe, you're not on mute, Joe.
Joe?
Joe Genetti,
Alderman Janetti?
Yes,
you're not on mute.
all right, well,
Sorry.
motion by, his compatriot Cassetti and a second by, was it Mamone?
It could be, yes, sir.
Or, oh, did I miss that? I just saw your face light up.
I'll second it if you need it. Second.
I
All
think
right,
that was
second
corrective
by
action.
Mamone. Any other questions on this? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. No appointments this month, no ordinance, although Attorney Marini mentioned that we do need to schedule an ordinance meeting. There's some issues, so I'll get on that. New business, we have, well, we cut one out, so six items. Take them in order.
You might check, I'm sorry, and remove item number 4 as well.
Okay. So the first two, actually, we will put, these are both storefront improvement. One is from the new MS Pavilion owner, and the other one is for Kitty Care Clubhouse. These should both go to the subcommittee first. I'll review, correct?
Yes,
And,
Motion to go to subcommittee.
if you would.
And motion is for subcommittee by
Second. Second by Mamone.
second by Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Right? The subcommittee will pick that up, come back.
Josh, you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if it's the fan blowing in your mic or whatever, but
Could be. It's hotter than sin here. You
I
see how
had-
red my face is?
a little bit.
No air conditioning, and I'm melting. But
I had some questions about that.
Yes, sir.
The storefront.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was trying to find out how much of the money is paid back and how much is in there. Because if we just giving away this money and no one's paying it back.
Rivers, I have the information on that and I can forward it to you because I inquired and received some of it.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
So I just wanted to follow up on.
Tony, can you send it to all of us? Because I asked the same question yesterday.
Okay.
That scared me. That was loud. Yes, I will, Bobby. I'll send it to
Sorry.
Josh, and Josh, you can distribute.
yeah, thanks, Tony.
Thank
So-
you.
you, Joe.
Steve Adamowski?
Well, I had a similar concern. I recall several months ago, we tabled a request. I believe it was the Sheffield Restaurant.
Good. That's
And
correct.
we requested that we get a report on the balance in the fund, and secondly, on the payback from those that had already received grants. So yeah, I think this is appropriate for all of the aldermen, or in a report, Sheila, that you might give in the future. But I think this is a concern for all of us relative to any further future or further appropriations for storefront improvement.
Yeah, and I will, and just quickly, I will add this, Steve, that, there's roughly about $5,000 left, which isn't a lot. And I think it's a fund that Corporation Counsel John Marini had recommended be started long time ago. But I guess, I would just say to this board, and I understand some businesses have paid it back, some businesses have left town and will never pay it back. But the intent is to try to help businesses, either start up or, just fill in some small gap with some funding from the city. So we'll have to look at, and I will give a report about, dollars out versus dollars in, but I think we should look at probably restructuring what we're doing, and it won't be the city's money. We'll try to get a grant to create another either loan or grant fund for businesses, because I think it's essential.
Yeah,
Well,
there's a good there's a good payback on it. However, there are businesses that either became defunct or they moved away and it necessitated collections efforts. I would say, my recommendation would be one of the original recommendations of this program, which is to really limit the improvements to improvements that stay with the property, right? So enhancements, number one, why do we like exterior? Because it benefits not just the business, it benefits everyone. It benefits curb appeal in general, right? And number two, maybe not being so specific in terms of something just for that business. For example, if we're using it to enhance the curb appeal, it's going with the building, it's cleaning the facade, it's repointing the bricks, it's enhancing the landscaping. And if a business leaves, property is still enhanced, everyone still wins. When it becomes very specific to a business, when they go out, it becomes either irrelevant or the business owner can detach it and take it with them. And it's not that we don't want to help the business, but I think that putting that money into something more permanent is the way to go to ensure that we don't have this issue, that way you don't really feel the blow if the worst happens. We know how hard it is to make it as a business in Connecticut and a business in general. And the truth of the matter is that, many of these business operators are a family, or if not a sole proprietor. And when they go under, bills get unpaid. And while we certainly could pursue collections actions, you may really just be going after a dead end in terms of liquidity, in terms of getting a judgment. That's
so I think there's tremendous support for the concept, and I hope you will find a way to continue it, whether it's with city money or other forms. I think that from our standpoint, the Board of Aldermen standpoint, I think we just need to know that the funds are available before these are approved. But I think your concept of making a permanent facade improvement that would transcend the length of the business there is a very, very good one. Because I think that was the issue with the last one we considered and tabled, that it was for a sign that was, not if the business went under and moved, that is not anything that the sign would have to change, and it's not anything that would benefit the facade of a building for future development. So, but by all means, I think you're on a wonderful track, and I hope we can find a way to do this in an even better form.
And there's ways around it too, right? To work with the business owner. So for example, say if they wanted a sign, well, maybe instead it goes to a sign fixture with lighting, a rack for the sign, but that the slide with the company name on it is done separately, right? And often that's actually the lowest cost of the sign, that you can go to a print shop and you could have it printed out, illuminated in a light box. But if the fixture with the lights is there for any business to come in, that's a permanent enhancement. That's going to make any business look good. Imagine a nice lighted sign or a light box, right? So there's a way to help them with the sign to make it better than it ever would be. But if they're going to do something specific to their business and their business only, they have to chip in on that amount. So I think that's the recommendation coming down. But until then, it's going to be a recommendation to use what's left to serve its purpose, get out there on the street as best as possible and help these new businesses. Certainly downtown's exploding with them, and we want to do everything to continue to cultivate what's really been a transformative period of time for downtown Ansonia.
Thank you.
Thanks to you guys and your support of this. Downtown would not look like this if it was not for this Board of Aldermen.
Thank you. Trish, remind me, did we vote on that? We had a motion. We had motions, but we didn't actually, then we had comments.
No, you don't have a motion on this one yet.
Oh, we didn't.
No.
We're just referring these to subcommittee.
You had the first one, you moved it to subcommittee.
Both of them, 1 and 2 together.
Oh, okay.
As a pair, moving so do we have a motion to move those or no?
Motion.
Motion second by Adamowski to refer both 1 and 2 to the subcommittee. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you, and good conversation on that. Number 3, Good God, this will take a long time. Consideration and approval of the capital improvement. Kurt, it's all you.
Thank you, Mr. President. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
That's never a good sign.
Yes, I'm just want to make sure I'm sharing the
Should
right
be
stuff.
able to do that, but let me know if you encounter a problem.
All right, so can everybody see the spreadsheet?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So what you were sent in your packets was a PDF version of a part of this spreadsheet. So let me first tell you the reason for the capital plan, and then we'll kind of move forward from there. So, obviously we've always had a capital plan. It's something that we've been working off for a couple of years now. LoCIP has changed its rules. So now to be eligible for the LoCIP grant, the city must create and have its legislative body approve a capital improvement plan. That plan must then be forwarded up to OPM. Once OPM receives it, when we apply for any LoCIP type grants, they will confirm with the capital improvement plan that they have on file, make sure that the project or the budget item is something that's listed on the capital plan, and then they'll go ahead and approve it. So it's a different process than what we've had in the past. So tonight, I'm going to ask you to approve this capital plan to allow us to begin having access to the LoCIP funds. This does not mean the capital plan cannot change. I would just need to bring an updated plan back to this board, have you revote, and then resubmit it. But again, there's some roads and some other things that we like to get started. We need to do this to access those funds. So this plan that I put together also takes into account the referendum items that were approved last November, as well as some other capital items that have come up from different department heads throughout the budget conversations that we've had. The one thing I want to stress, this is a living, breathing document. So expect to see it often, expect to see it changing. There's going to be an ebb and flow with a lot of these projects. Some projects will come on and off based on funding. Sheila may be able to get grants for different things. So we'll be able to move through this. For tonight's purposes, I have it broken down into a couple different categories. So I just want to go through the categories, take any questions that you may have, and then we could move forward. So this first section that is in this orangey color, these are all things that are capital items that are built into the budget that we fund each year. So as you know, we buy a certain number of police patrol cars each year. We buy public works equipment. We have a small, just general capital plan that we have money put aside to purchase different items. We put money aside for reevaluation. We put money aside to be replacing new vehicles. We also put money aside for sidewalk repair, drainage repair, catch basin repair, pothole repair, tree removal. And then the last two are updated ones. One is going to be IT license renewals, and talking with Dave Conley and Richie Bashir, we have a lot of licenses that are constantly coming up for renewal that we pay for over an extended period of time. As an example, in the fall of 2025, so for next fiscal year, we're going to need to spend about $150,000 to replace all of our Meraki equipment. So we want to make sure we have money put aside for those things. And then I know that there's been a lot of discussion on parks with the referendum, with the grant money received from Gaddison Park. So we wanted to start a fund where annually we would have the ability to direct money specifically just for parks. It could be updating swings, slides, putting in benches, different things like that. So these are all things that are paid for in cash as a part of the regular budget. When we scroll down to the green section, these are all things that were improved last year during the referendum. We're going to start doing these items as early as September. And what we're going to do is we're going to do some short-term borrowing, whether it be grants or some other type of debt instrument. And Glenn Rybacki will jump in at the end and answer some of the financing questions as well. The plan will be to borrow this money now using a note that has no prepayment penalty, that has less than a 12-month duration. And when the WPCA closes its sale in December, we would essentially pay off the notes and retire all the debt. The main reason why we need to do this, if you look to the bottom line 33, right down here for radio infrastructure, this is the large first responder radio project that was approved. This will be not only the infrastructure, but all the portable radios. This does have a clock on it. Jared worked very hard to secure good pricing on this, and we're going to need to have a $750,000 roughly down payment for that. And then the project itself will be completed at some point, probably in November, for the full 2.241 million. So we will need to borrow money, at least short term, to address that. So while we're going out to borrow money, we might as well address some of these other projects that need to be taken care of as well, particularly Chief Williams in his letter talked about the need for the guns, the tasers, the updated vehicles for the chief and the lieutenants, and then also new equipment for the canine, particularly a new car, and obviously all of the necessary equipment, not only to protect the dog, but to keep the dog safe inside the vehicle. We want to make sure all that is covered. And then for Dr. DeBacco, obviously extremely important, there is 1.5 million for the potential purchase of land for the new middle school. Again, that is on a ticking clock as well. We need to get that land purchased, get all the information up to the state of Connecticut, so that way we can take advantage of the reimbursement rate that Dr. DeBacco was able to work very hard with Speaker Ritter in getting that over the finish line for the city. So that's the green section. The yellow section, these are also items that were approved at referendum. These are more bigger ticket items, things that will need to be ordered, and there's going to be a time wait for these things, a delay. As we know, the ambulances, which you folks all approved, believe at the last meeting, there's about a 24-month wait on those. Same thing with the bucket truck, dump truck, and some other things. We have Nature Center upgrades. Ally has some things that need to be updated there. Those are things that we will pay for in cash. So when the WPCA is actually sold and we have this pool of money, at that point, I'm going to come back to you with a series of designations, because what I'd like to do is lock this money up, put it aside, and specifically earmark it for things. Kim Ritchie and myself have been spending some time looking at some different places that we could potentially invest money to take advantage of some of the more higher interest rates on some of the fixed assets that we are able to invest in. We have the potential of getting 4 or 5% on our money. If we can put 15 or 20 million aside, this is something that I'm going to work with the finance team on, trying to keep the principal in place and use the interest that we earn to pay cash for these things, so we continue to keep ourselves in a good long-term financial position. So that's the yellow section. And then finally, the blue section, this is the big ticket items. These are things that we're going to need to either do some type of lease purchase, or we're going to have to go out to bond for. Bonding will primarily be driven around the middle school project itself. Now, if you look to the very bottom, line 53, I put in the projected full amount of the middle school. That's obviously not what we're going to pay. But when we go out to bond, or when we go out for bands, I should say, this is the amount of bands that we'll be going out for. So Dr. DeBacco has projected about $100 million for a new school, give or take. And then there has also been roof requests, as we know, that was part of the referendum package as well, for about $5 million. So again, that $5 million would also have a reimbursement attached to it. So in general, on the bottom, just a quick synopsis. So the general fund stuff, the stuff that we pay for in cash every year, $585,000. The cash pre-WPCA sale, so that's the stuff we would do the short-term borrowing for. You're looking at about just under 6 million. For the post WPCA sale stuff, you're looking at about 2.8 million. And then finally, the debt instruments, those are the big ticket items. That's 116 million, but the vast majority of that is reimbursable by the state of Connecticut. If you look over now to the side, when we rebuilt the debt model 2 years ago, as you all recall, we had a very favorable experience. Our bond issue was 55 times oversubscribed. We received historically low interest rates for the city of Ansonia. People were actually fighting to borrow our money. That's how excited they were that we were out in the market. So that's a testament to the hard work and effort that all of you have put in with the mayor's office over the last 10 years. We were able to redesign our debts to be able to do the things that we needed to do, but then have what I call a descending scale. Every red is good. Red means that your debt is getting cheaper each year. So these top two lines where I am, this is what our debt currently looks like. So as you can see, over the years, we'll be paying a little bit less each year going forward. That gives you the ability to, going forward, reinvest in your infrastructure, but do so in a way that's fiscally responsible, and you're not heaping loads and loads of debts and burden on the taxpayers. I ran just some basic, very, very simple scenarios with just a set interest rate over a set period of time. When you borrow things, and Glenn can obviously explain more, but you can't borrow money for longer than the life expectancy of the thing that you're borrowing for. So, maybe you can go out 20, 25, 30 years for a school, but if you're buying a police car, as an example, you couldn't finance a police car over 20 years. That's just insane because police cars only last a handful of years. So I tried to put realistic timeframes, realistic interest rates, and then I just did a simple chart for you all to get an idea of what financing could look like for some of these bigger ticket projects. And it just gives you an idea of what our debt could look like over a 25 or 30 year period. I then took it and added it to our current debt situation just to give an idea. Now, again, there has to be an expectation that the debt service line is going to increase because, again, we're borrowing a lot of money and we're doing a tremendous amount of projects that are going to benefit the city. So when we build this model, and this is something that I'll do with John and Barry and Glenn, trying to feather this debt in to make the most sense and have the least long-term impact. So again, I want to just run your attention to line 59. And what you could see is it'll be a bit of a challenge in the first couple of years. So in fiscal 26, you'll see fiscal 27, it drops down. 28, it goes up. 29, it goes up. 30, it goes up. Primarily being driven by some of the stuff like the fire trucks and things like that, some of the bigger tickets. And then going forward after that, we're into red. So you'll see this model again. Every time we borrow, we will update this. We'll keep putting it in front of you, making sure that you are comfortable, that you have a good understanding, because again, everybody wants to borrow and everybody wants to do things now and borrow the money now, but sometimes they don't take into account the impact that decisions we're making today are going to have in 3 or 5 years down the road. So I want to make sure that this picture is clear, that it's understood. This is something that we may actually put into the budget process. I know that we show the actual debt each year in the budget process, but maybe we'll do something that's a bit more, I guess, entailing than this is, so people can have a true understanding. Obviously, the goal is for the average resident to be able to pick something like this and have a pretty good understanding of what's going on. So this is the capital plan. So there's kind of two pieces to this. Number one is approving of the capital plan. And then I'm going to have Glenn jump on in a second and just talk about the financing piece of this really quick. There's really not much you need to do for that, but I want to make sure that just Glenn talks you through it and then explains everything. And then if anybody has any questions, obviously Glenn is the person best suited to answer. So Glenn, if you want to just jump in and do just a quick 2 minutes on the financing aspect of this, then we could take some questions.
Sure. Like you had said, Kurt, we've got a lot of the projects right now were approved last year through the referendum process. What was approved in that process was for the city to spend the money that they needed to spend, but to open up general obligation bonds and notes as far as a funding instrument goes. And either of those, it's really going to be kind of like what Kurt's been demonstrating here. The authorization was in place as of November, but the idea is now you've got to, as you know, use it that makes best sense for the city. And that's where, like Kurt was talking, we're going to match lives of capital items that you're buying with it. We're going to look at what the spending is, you know, the anticipated needs are going to be. And we're going to do that all within the context of the IRS. So, because obviously tax exempt rates are what's in the best interest for the city. I think, I don't know if this is the right spot as well. We were talking about, I think I heard Kurt mention lease purchase agreements as part of the financing tools. That's what I believe we've been doing with the Johnson Controls items that we bought, those energy projects there. We've got another project that really, I think is, everything I've heard has been, you know, it's going to be a wonderful return to the city. What we had planned to do was we were going to do an additional lease purchase for the fuel cell equipment. And we were going to do that under the master lease purchase agreement that the city had already entered into. Counsel for Bank of America, who's been doing the funding, the financing side of that, kind of threw us a curveball roughly about 2:30 this afternoon, that they wanted to do it under a new master lease agreement. It was pretty much going to be similar, but they felt because this was a distinct project from what we were doing before, that we were going to have to basically kind of go back to square one with that. So with regards to that, I haven't seen the documents yet. I've asked them for them. And I think Kurt had mentioned that we were going to probably come back in a couple weeks, a week, 2 weeks, to put before the Board of Aldermen those agreements and what that financing was going to do. But I couldn't put that in front of you at this point because we just don't have, I don't have the documents, and you know, that would be foolish to even speculate what they would be. We want to see what they actually are. The other piece of financing that Sheila had touched on, I think Kurt touched on it, has to do with all these grant commitments that the city has. The grant commitments are, frankly, they're incredible in the sense that so many of these projects that the grant commitments are for is really going to pay for the whole project. So when that's the scenario of those grants, like Kurt said, the city has to spend the money first. And when you're talking, you know, 5 million, 10 million, 12 million, whatever the dollar amount is, two things come into play. One, I don't know too many towns or cities that have that money just kicking around that they can spend it. The other side of that too is that if you drain out available cash, that's something that the rating agencies are going to see and the financial markets are going to see. And they don't really, they don't view it in a light most favorable. They tend to view that one in a light most unfavorable. So what the state has done is, under the statutes, they allow cities and towns to issue what they call grant anticipation notes. These grant anticipation notes are a great vehicle to, one, not drain the city's coffers to proceed with these projects, because as Kurt had said, you have to spend the money before you can submit it to get reimbursed. It would be wonderful if they gave you the money up front, but that's not the way the state works. But what they do is they're very strictly, they're really rigid programs. The grants, what we issue for grant anticipation notes, which we would have to, I'm thinking in September, again, come back to the board for their approval. What we would do is we issue those notes and we have to spend that note money on the specific projects that the grants are matched up with. So there's no wiggle room. What then happens is that all of that structure, because they're generally short-term instruments, they don't want you going out on bonds, on grants. And what they will do is when we get grant money, the grant money has to go immediately towards those notes. So it kind of is one of those things where it helps, but your hands are tied. So in this instance, like Sheila had been getting all these grant amounts. They're wonderful projects. Without the GANs, they don't move forward unless we have a lot of money on hand. That's what the GANs will solve. I think that's kind of what we had talked about so far. At least those are the three avenues we've been discussing and trying to put into place to benefit the city.
Yeah, so those are the three big areas, and just to hit on a little bit of the Johnson controls, and we don't want to say anything yet until we see specifically what Bank of America has come back with the new master lease agreement. But the fuel cell is going to be a little bit different than the energy efficiency project that we did with the solar, because this is going to generate reoccurring revenue each year. So again, it's not going to be a one-time revenue hit, but this will be a revenue stream that the city will be able to do things with over the next 20 years. It's also a great economic development tool, putting in these fuel cells, particularly in the area that it is, because the Sheila is now marketing these locations. That's one of the things that we'll be able to potentially offer to some of these developers. So, but again, the fuel cell stuff, we'll get together in a special meeting probably in the next 2 weeks, Mr. President, with your permission. The GANs are something that we'll talk a little bit more in depth about probably at the September meeting. Tonight's primary goal, number one, is to answer any questions that you have about the capital improvement plan and its short-term financing. And once those are addressed, Mr. President, then just have a vote to approve the capital improvement plan as presented today. And then once we have the minutes, that'll be voted up to OPM with the plan, and then we'll be all set to go. So with that, Mr. President, we'll take any questions that you or any members may have.
Questions from the Alderman. Joe Cassetti?
Yes, through you, President Schuer. Yeah, why is Bank of America hedging here? Why are they changing their mind?
I'm sorry, Kurt, for jumping in. When I spoke to them, it really wasn't a hedging. It was really more of just a structure issue with regards to how the fuel cell is really a much different sort of, call it a beast, than what the energy efficiency projects were. So it frankly is there to facilitate Bank of America's putting together the capital that's going to finance it. It's not a reflection on the city at all. They're still very anxious to work with the city on this.
Okay, thank you. But what are we ready to do? Well, what is teed up to start taking effect, starting projects?
For projects, we'll get everything in the green going, and then we'll sprinkle in some of the orange.
Okay, green is priority?
Green is stuff that will be done as soon as you approve the plan, as soon as we get the financing in order. At that point, then I will tell the department heads, go. So Chief Williams can purchase his guns, his tasers, his K9 vehicle. Attorney Marini can work with Dr. DeBacco on the middle school land. The mayor can do some roads. The fire department can get some tools, those types of things.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And biggest too, Jerry can get the radio project.
Yeah, as soon as possible, please.
There's a deadline, I believe it's September 7th or September 9th, so we'll have it in place by then.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions from the Alderman?
Josh, I had a question for Glenn regarding the grant anticipation notes. Is it fair to say that the only costs to the city, once the grant is received, of course, of the anticipation notes would be the short-term interest payment.
That would be correct.
Okay, and so.
And can I just interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
We're also going to ask the state for help with that, right? Because we have to borrow in order to move our projects forward and spend the grant money. But I don't know if we'll be successful, but that's certainly going to be a request.
But that could, I guess my next question deals with that and the years that Kurt showed that where, you know, there was an additional cost. I'm assuming, or I'm asking this as a question, that the additional costs to the taxpayers in terms of this plan each year could be mitigated, as well as the grant anticipation interest payments could be mitigated. If enough money was saved from the sale of assets,
right,
to offset both of those expenses, is that a correct assumption?
Yes. 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 Now, and again, this chart that I showed you, this doesn't take into account the GANs at all, because I'm kind of looking at the GANs in a way as a pass through. Glenn, maybe if you want to talk quick about arbitrage, just to explain to them how that would work and. On the money.
Two things are going to come into play with this, and I think the right approach is not to really work the GANs in from the standpoint of that they are going to be short term. They are limited in scope. I think what Kurt's addressing with regards to these bigger projects and where we were talking about useful life, those are the items that are going to be out on what are traditionally bonds. And when the bond money is brought in and it's spent, they have what's called arbitrage, which we calculate at the time of issuance a yield, what the money is actually costing us with those bonds. And for certain periods of time, the IRS actually lets you invest that in instruments to make money on it. And so as long as we stay within those rules, that money can go in, and frankly, that would help mitigate or reduce interest costs, because those are proceeds of the bonds, and paying the interest with it is a proper cost.
So I think it would be important here in terms of the overall plan to be able to reserve enough of the proceeds from the sale of assets, whether it be the water company or whether it be the waste treatment plant or the sale of the American Brass or any other asset sale, to be able to have the funds available to offset the any additional expense to the taxpayers. I think I get the impression, Kurt, looking at this, that you're striving for a cost neutral plan, right, over the long term, correct?
Yes, and that's one of the things when, with the WPCA sale and, if we're able to sell other assets that we have, in talking about those designations, putting the money aside to pay for these things in cash, but while the money's put aside, it's earning interest. So what are we then able to do with that interest? What other capital items can we address? What other debt instruments can we retire? Those types of things. So again, I would expect to see this plan in front of you multiple times a year as we're making these updates, and we're going to try to keep this as budget neutral as we possibly can. And I think if we do it correctly, we can come pretty close.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for either Glenn or Kurt from the Alderman?
One last question, please. You use the words borrowing and how, I mean, I like the idea of borrowing as long as we've got something to back up what we're, our assets might be, but.
Joe, we would borrow against grants. There's almost $30 million worth of grants. So we have money to leverage, right, against what we're borrowing.
That's what I'm looking for. Okay, thank you, Sheila. And I think you're much too modest.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Really. When
Oh,
it, co-
boy, I'm gonna
when
pay
it
for
comes to
this.
getting the money, thank you,
Okay.
Sheila, on behalf of
right.
everybody, including the
Team
whole
effort.
city.
That's
Team
enough.
effort, team effort.
That's enough
Thank
from
you.
you, Cassetti. From you, Cassetti.
Now you shut him down, Josh. Now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Do we want to vote to approve this plan, knowing that it's going to come back to us when, if and when there's changes along the way? But this really gets some of those key projects, pre-approved projects, moving, as mentioned earlier by Kurt.
Motion.
Second. Steady. Second by Janetti. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, guys. for the great detail in that.
Thank you, Kurt.
And the innovative work you're doing. And get to it.
A
Yeah.
good team of people we're blessed to have, so.
Get going.
Yeah. All right. So that's new business number 3. As mentioned, we're gonna we removed number 4, number 5. That brings us to number 6 under new business. Bids for environment remediation at Olson Drive Field Project discussion and potential approval.
Motion.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You can do a motion before a discussion. It's
Yeah,
actually
motion.
proper
Okay.
Robert's rules
Motion by
way.
Cassetti. Do we have a second on this? Then we
Second.
have a second by
Thank you.
Malone. All right. Yeah. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, can we talk about this?
Yes.
Didn't hear who seconded.
Absolutely.
Mamone second.
Cassetti and Mamone.
Oh, we got another
What?
What's that? I
third,
didn't
it
know what
sounds
account
like.
that was.
All right. So I think Rivers had a question and Tar had a question as well.
Please,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. It's,
Go ahead, Tar.
it's a big,
I'm just curious, why are we gonna keep spending money on Olson Drive when this is a property that we've sold and it's up to the developer to start building? Like, I just,
so it's
I'm
not
just
our money.
confused that we're not seeing anything happening, and why are we gonna have to
It's-
put more money into it?
It's not our money, right? It's grant funds. Well, I guess it is our money, right? It's everyone's money.
Gotta
Where the
use it.
city isn't, the city isn't putting anything towards it. We secured a $3.8 million environmental cleanup grant for the site. Because we recognize that, there was going to be a significant amount of cleanup before any of the development could proceed. And we want to partner with our developers. We want to help move projects along. So we were fortunate to get this grant. This award of this bid is for the contractor who's going to process the soil, either cart it off site or put it down for the field, which will begin the actual development of the site. The grant money is not being used for development. It is to clean up a site, which has some significant issues in terms of quantity of contamination, not trying to.
But
let's see if I put
contamination
this-
nevertheless
put
needs
this-
to be remediated.
It's
So
correct.
regardless, in
So-
terms of severity, it's difficult to discuss, but it's widespread and it needs to be remediated. There was a time when there was a
Okay.
question on the value of this property. And, I think it was suggested by some that the property was perhaps worth more than the city, in fact, sold it for. We were
Right.
very adamant that the price was appropriate. But now we found out that actually we were wrong. The property is worth far less than we sold it for. The property is worth negative values because of the extensive cleanup and the cost associated with that. So it turns out that once the soil was opened up, no project was feasible because of the extent of the remediation. Unfortunately, as Sheila describes, we have grant funds because our funders also see the importance of an economic project like this, the jobs, the economic activity, and on a parcel that if this project wasn't going on, now it becomes very obvious, nothing would go on. This would be a wasteland property that would be even inappropriate to put a park on because of danger that could be posed to people. So very
Sorry, the
fortunately,
reason
we're
we-
in a road where we're actually remediating the environmental issues and doing it with some grant funding, and finally
The
that
reason-
project can proceed.
Right, sorry to interrupt. The reason we did get secure the funding is because we had an end user. We have a developer, the state liked the project, liked the idea of building it out as a sports complex, and that's how we got the funding. If, if we didn't have that end use, I don't think we would have been successful in securing the funding.
Okay, so it's
I
not
wanna-
costing us anything at all. It's not costing the taxpayers anything.
Correct.
Okay.
And what I say about grants is, listen, it is taxpayer money. Grants are taxpayer money.
I understand
But
that.
rather it comes to Ansonia than it goes somewhere else, right? So that's why
Yeah.
we try to bring it in as fast and furiously as we can.
Thank you.
So this is a bit confusing, but let me explain. You have the bid tabulation sheet, I believe, in your packet.
Mm-hmm.
So we took the 4 lowest bidders. Earthworks was the lowest bidder, but we realized that the bid specs weren't as clear. They're very technical. There's 100 pages or so, that the environmental people were not as clear as they should have been with respect to removal of soil off site. So we asked the 4 lowest to come back with a better understanding, giving them a better understanding of what we actually expect to happen with all of that soil. And when we did that, Enviro Consulting came in as the low bidder. Even though it looks like Cisco is the lowest, they never responded to our request for an updated quote. So I'm asking that this board award the contract to Enviro Consultants, and they're out of Danbury, I believe, and they are set to mobilize as soon as we give them the go-ahead with your approval.
Need a motion?
Any other questions on this? I think we already made the motion, right?
Yeah.
The motion in a
Yes,
second already. Is there any other discussion on it?
I guess she answered all of the questions that I had, so I'm good.
I can't believe it. I cannot.
There's a first for everything, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's vote then. All in favor of approving this?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion carries.
Sheila,
Thank
tell them
you.
to get moving.
Yes, Tony, I know.
Get off your
I hear
butts.
from
Let's
you.
go.
I hear from you on a daily basis. Yes, I will.
It's gonna be bi-daily if they're not there.
Okay. That's motivation enough for me. Okay.
All right, and the last item was
Yes.
mentioned by Attorney Marini in his talk at the beginning regarding the Ansonia Opera House. Do you want to briefly explain this, John? Or
We have a recommendation is Quinn, right, for the planning survey?
Patrick Quinn
And
Associates.
They're the
Yes.
folks that put together the feasibility study. They're one of 2 bidders that completed all requirements, including attending the walkthrough. So Patrick Quinn and Associates, that's our recommendation to select. As I stated before, that we're moving from feasibility to something far more concrete. We're looking at attaching dollars to items and understanding what the scope of this work is. One thing I didn't mention tonight, but I did mention in the past, and it's very important, is as we know, there is a division of the state, simplify it. It's called SHPO, it's the acronym. And they oversee oversee projects that result in the loss of historic properties. And they work to mitigate that loss. And of course, SHW and Copper and Brass, that's in the scope of what they look to protect or to mitigate, right? The loss of those historic industrial buildings, even though we understand and we've expressed to them that those buildings are hazardous, they're dangerous, and they're impediments to the future of the city. We proposed some time ago that remediation of the Ansonia Opera House could be that mitigation, right? Could basically make up for any loss of historic structures at SHW and Copper and Brass. And they truly love the idea. We think it's a wonderful project in that we've gotten great cooperation from the owner long-term, Walt Konjerski and his family. And we've seen this go from what seemed to be a pie in the sky, right? I think when I initially presented this, we thought it's just the exterior. It's basically it's realistic, is making it look better on the outside. But now it's really gone into an inside out project, right? Which is why we've diverted from just looking at the outside to now looking at the totality, because we know that beyond it counting towards mitigation, there will be funds available. And there will potentially be avenues available like tax credits that could incentivize a developer to help partner to put this project together and to build it out. But we're in the phase where we need to understand, what direction do we want to go in and what's that going to cost? So in terms of where do we want to go, again, very shortly, we're going to present the first renderings, which show different uses for the site. And I think it's very well thought out. You're going to see how the entire building has to adopt to fit it. And of course, we need this planning study. That way we understand what is the actual cost. But we have answered some questions, which is that this is not an unreasonable project. A lot of times there are rumors that get spread about the condition of a building or certain obstacles that can't be overcome. But we believe this project is viable. The question, of course, is funding. And we've heard the board loud and clear. Obviously, we seek to fund this through state and federal grants, not through taxpayer dollars. We want to mitigate any exposure to that. At the same time, we understand that we are working to build not just a private facility here, but a facility that could also be used by the community. So that's very important. And that's very much in the vision also of Mr. Konjerski and his family, that this site not only be used to be an operational business, but it also be used as a communal space, adding something really needed, both of historic significance back to downtown, but also very functional when you talk about the ability and, not for opera per se, but for entertainment of all sorts. A place to congregate in a truly historic, historically significant place. So very excited. And again, we're just recommending the collection of Patrick Quinn and Associates. And we will be following up with those with a display of the renderings and a Q&A session with them, hopefully early fall.
All right.
John, do you need a motion to move forward here?
A motion to
Yes.
select Patrick Quinn and
Select.
Associates as the successful bidders, highest, best qualified for the selection.
Motion to award the bid to Patrick. I missed the official name. I'm sorry.
Patrick Quinn.
Patrick Quinn and
Patrick Quinn.
Associates.
Second.
Motion by Mamone, second by Cassetti. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining. All right, motion carries unanimously. Thank
Calling
you.
you daily, John. Make it happen.
Yep. All right, John, don't go anywhere. Under old business, we have an old friend, what do you call it? Old issue coming back up. The sale of 48 Silver Hill Road, RE review bids and proposed projects. This was the one we asked for more information.
Concerning two neighbors putting bids in on city property. But before we get to that, let me just insert something to our old business, because I don't want to forget about this. I actually have a question for Alderman Rivers. So this is reverse psychology, I think, turning the tides. Alderman Rivers, did baseball get reimbursed as they need to be reimbursed for what they invested into the fields, right? We talked about this before. You had put the request before us. I just wanted to follow through on that and understand it, because it needs to be paid if it hasn't been.
No, it hasn't been.
Okay, so I'll follow up with you on that. So, you could pass on the word, but I want to make sure they get full reimbursement. Obviously, a volunteer league, we discussed, putting some money into the fields. That is the responsibility of the city. So I want to make sure that gets to them, to that league immediately.
Thank you.
I was hoping that there would be a different answer, but okay. So moving on to our other old business, we have a city property on Silver Hill Road. And under the charter, it is possible to put it to bid for sale, right? To the two adjacent, or however many there may be, adjacent
Abutters.
owners, the abutting property owners. And there are two in this situation. And you have received in the past bids from both. However, those bids didn't exactly outline what was proposed. And we asked both bidders to not just put the price, right, but also put what their proposed project was, what they proposed to do with the property, how they propose to invest in the property, because of course that may be determinative in the best bid in the interest of the city of Ansonia. So you do have both of them. They're stapled back to back in your packet, each laying out specifics on what they would intend to do with the property once purchased. And of course, as we said before, this is a sliver of property that has no value to the city to hold on to. In any event, it's lost tax revenue. It's not ideal in any way for open space. It's just a sliver of property that really should be with one of the abutting property owners. And of course, the only fair way to do this is to put it out to bid. Again, given the rules of the city, it's entirely valid. And in fact, it makes a lot of sense to put it out only to the abutting property owners, because why have a third property owner involved in the middle of that? They've put their bids in, they've described what they're going to do, and we are looking for this board to choose a winning bid, the bid that serves the best interest of the city of Ansonia.
So John, when these were solicited, you specifically asked for the future use to be detailed?
We asked
Right.
for, what will be done. Obviously there's going to be a sale, but what are the plans with that sale? What do the property
I
owners
would-
intend to do with the property?
Yeah, I would point out that one bid is higher than the other, but the intended use might be of higher value on one than the other. So just want you to be aware of that.
The higher value, I mean, to not, to
Be looking to
about it, the
conclude
higher the
this
value,
tonight?
the higher the tax.
John, are you looking to conclude this tonight?
At the
Right
pleasure
now?
of this board.
Yeah,
Hope
well,
so.
whatever the best tax return for the city would be a single family home on the proposed piece of property that would be added to the existing, and that's the one that I would go with.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Joe.
I would agree also. I think this is simply a matter of getting something on the grand list that doesn't exist currently, and we are in great need of middle-class housing.
Okay, so let's put that motion out there. I got the motion.
I thought we had said we were gonna let them both take peace and be done with it. Didn't we say that?
I don't think we ever talked about
No.
dividing that sliver further. So the two were, the
Okay.
first one on the top, it's dated June 12th, 2024. It's from Raymond Sadlick. And he's proposing to purchase the sliver of land at 48 Silver Hill Road. His bid is 2,500. He would like to combine that piece of property with the adjacent property that he already owns to create a single family building lot. He also estimates his investment to be approximately $500,000.
Did anybody second that?
Your second detail is dated 7/10/24. It's from a Gene Santasonio,
Right.
Santasio. It's the second page. It's stapled right to the first one.
Oh, I don't know.
And he is is a
Nope.
$5,000
But it doesn't say what he wants to do with it.
He wants to put a garage on it.
It's our understanding it was a garage. I guess it didn't detail it out.
I'm with Joe on this one.
I'd be happy to.
I will second it.
Cassetti's motion.
That's fine.
I have a point of discussion.
All right, motion by Cassetti, second by Adamowski and Mamone. Comment.
Which person?
What?
Which person are we bidding for?
The first proposal.
Sadler? Sadek?
Yeah.
Okay,
He doesn't list his address.
A garage versus a house is the.
yeah. No brainer.
So
Yeah.
the point of discussion is, yeah, it's detailed here. Once the transfer takes place, what guarantee is there that he builds a house?
Right.
If we sell property, we can sell property pursuant to a condition. So what we can do is we could put that into the purchase agreement, we could record something onto the land records in conformity with a proposal to the Board of Aldermen. That's something we could actually do in a sale. It's something we could actually do in an auction. If it comes to, if it helps any member of this board down the line, the city could put conditions on property that it owns, that it's selling. So I will do that.
Whoever made that motion, I think we should amend it to include something along those lines, because the promise of building something doesn't always happen. This guy just got the property, at half the bid of what the other gentleman was bidding. So I think there needs to be some sort of stipulation that if we're going to build and there's a promise of revenue, tax revenue, it has to materialize potentially within, a year's time or something like that.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, like a timeline.
Good. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I wouldn't say a year, but 2 years, because I mean it's hard to get
I agree, Chicago.
Yeah,
Maybe-
but put a timeline on it.
They
Right,
built
yeah,
that whole
yeah,
road off
no,
of Ford
I
in
get
like less than 4 months. So
And he could always come back, if there's some hardship, he can come back to the board.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right, you
so
want an addendum to that, Tony?
I
I'll
would like
agree
work.
to stipulating a timeline for construction to be within 3 years.
Oof.
Conditional upon the building of a single-family home on property within 3 years?
Yep. Or at least permitting.
Could we go 2 years?
I think you'd need 2
And
years.
what would be the
just for
stipulation if they don't do it?
I think you'd need the 2 years. just
Revert
for
back, maybe?
site work.
Reverts back
Yeah,
to
it would
the city
be
if he doesn't
like a
want it.
reverter.
What we do, revert back to the city if nothing's developed there? I mean,
Sell it to the second
how would
guy.
we recover that or enforce it?
Reverters are enforceable, because that's the consideration for getting the property in the first place.
We'll take care of that,
so,
won't you, John?
I could put that in there, definitely.
All right.
So you could say that in your motion as well, our substantive conversation here is 2 years, like, what is the time frame for reasonable time frame for, commencing, and is it completing? Is it substantially commencing? How do we want to deal with it that way? What is fair given?
I think commencement for 2 years and completion for 3.
Both?
Starting it within 2. I mean, I would do probably one or the other, right? Either go for the deadline at the end or.
Excuse me.
I say complete in 2 years. You can build a house in 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Hire me.
it's Joe's
I would
motion,
use the
so.
word substantially complete in 2 years.
All right.
I could
As
build it in
discussed
6 months.
with John. All right, John?
Substantially complete within 2 years, Joe, you are good, okay with that?
Yeah, unless he reapplies for a permit to extend it.
I want to see some
For
action.
this, I would have him reapply to this board, and that's a fair point.
Yeah, because I
Say
don't
why
want
he
to
didn't do it.
start a job, can't finish
But,
it. and
yeah,
then-
Joe is right. He's making a good point. It's contingent sometimes on our land use board. So with that in mind, if you
I
would,
think just the site work's gonna probably take up to 2 years.
yeah.
Do you want to do 3? Do you want to do substantially complete by 3, by no more than 3 years?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Chris, you
I
have
don't
that?
agree. I don't agree with that, but we'll
I
see where
don't
the vote
either.
goes.
Okay, can I read it?
Well,
Yeah, go ahead. Trish, read that back.
Move to accept the proposal of Raymond Sadlick, conditional upon the substantial completion of construction of a single-family home on the property within 3 years. And if not, the property will revert back to the city.
Or do you want
he's gonna probably have an investment in the property at the end of 2 years anyways. So if we try and take back anything, I think we're gonna be in a little bit of a legal.
If he
fee.
starts work on I think that you're concerned about a situation where someone does not do anything with the property, right?
Right.
So I would imagine it's a different situation if someone is investing into the property, getting the work done. That's not the situation that you're concerned about. And that's why we can put in there, if the timeline is run, it could be appealed to the Board of Aldermen. So there could be some equity to that, because we don't want to put someone in a situation where they've done work on the property and it goes back, and you do have the right to say, hey, I invested money in it. But again, the board is clearly, I'm sure, concerned about not doing anything with the property and having it sit there for 2-3 years. However, I will also note, it will be 2 or 3 years that will be taxable property. And it is not taxable property right now. However, that's not the point. The point is why we're selecting one bid over the other. So, I think the safeguards make sense. A timeline that could be appealed, but that does put some pressure on to get this done as proposed.
Can you give me the words for the motion then?
Just 2 or 3, guys. I would say if it's completion, I think it's more fair to say substantial completion by 2.5 to 3, right? Just because of the nature of things.
Yeah.
I'm a no.
But
anything
that's,
more
I'm
than
not, I'm not a member of the board. I'm just.
Just to get into that property. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but
Joe, they cleared a whole new road up on Ford again within not even 4 months.
you'll
So,
get a nosebleed going up that property.
2
Well,
years sounds fair.
Well, I would say 2 years, because I know that I could do it under 2 years myself. So
I have clients that do them in 14
I
months.
mean,
I'm
we
out.
spoke, we spoke to, one of the bidders, and he's very eager to get started if you guys approve the project. So I don't think that'll be a problem.
Well, if it's being hung up by 2 or 3 years, I'll go to 2 years then.
All right. Trish, can you read that back the third time?
Move to accept the proposal of Raymond Sadlick conditional upon the substantial completion of construction of a single-family home on the property within 2 years.
That's great.
And if
Right.
not, am I putting that, if not, the property will revert back to the city? Am I putting that in there?
Yes.
Or do we want to have them come back to the board?
I don't think so.
Revert back to the city unless
Substantial work
by
has
the
been
Board
done.
of Aldermen.
Yeah, unless meeting with the Board of Aldermen, or something like that. We don't actually want this property, do we?
No.
Again, this is about the
No.
equity of
Or
approving
the disposition of the property will the
No,
decision
but
about the disposition will be reconsidered.
letting it sit as just a parcel of land versus even, you put a garage on there, you collect some tax revenue. So there's got to be some ramification if there's a promise to build.
The
it
vote
has
is
to be-
substantial completion within 2 years. If substantial completion is not achieved within 2 years, the property will revert back to the city of Ansonia unless the timeline is otherwise extended by the Ansonia Board of Aldermen.
Yeah.
That's
I'm okay.
excellent.
Got it.
Thank you, John.
All right. You're good with that, Joe? And who was the seconder? Steve?
That's me.
Yeah, and you're good with the amendment as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. We'll trust you guys will follow through on that. And we hopefully never see that item again.
We will watch him like a hawk.
Yeah, if any other old business come before the board?
No.
No? All right, then all we have left is we have 3 items, three listed items. One is blight litigation, and then we have vehicle damage and an incident under executive session.
motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Motion by Rivers, second by Cassetti to enter into executive session. John, who do you like in executive session?
Our regular staff, Sheila O'Malley and also Rhonda Perini, with specifically in connection with item number 1.
Perfect. Okay.
Perfect.
Hold on. Go, Scotty.
Again, motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
Motion by Rivers. Who was the seconder on that?
Everybody.
Everybody, the whole room. All right, we have 3 items in executive session. On the matter of, blight litigation, we have 3 properties to discuss. What's your pleasure?
Motion to proceed as discussed in executive session, Josh.
Second.
Motion by Mamone, second by Levinsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, motion carries. Number 2, Lopez Elliott versus City of Ansonia. I'd like to proceed on that.
Motion to proceed as discussed in executive session.
Second. Sorry, Rivers, I hesitated.
Yeah, I
Motion
know you
by
did.
Rivers, second by Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right. And number 3, Jen Crampets, RE incident at Nolan.
Motion to proceed as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Motion by Mamone, second by Rivers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, motion carries unanimously.
And motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Rivers, second by Tar and the rest of the room. Thank you everyone for your patience.
Josh,
Good
stay
Night,
cool.
everybody.